Whoever it is hasn't turned it on. Oh, there it goes.
All right, thank you. All right, today is Monday, January 23rd. The time now is 7:37. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If I can have everyone stand for the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Mike, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Mr. Mayor.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. Under Government Code Section 54953, under the Brown Act, I'm about to read a script, and I'm going to proceed now. I would like to make it clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that at least a portion of this city council meeting is conducted pursuant to California Government Code 54953, in that council member Michael Gingona is calling in via a teleconference, and I have an address, 21 Butterfly, Valley Verde, Pasig, Philippines. Councilmember Gingona is participating on the speakerphone. In accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, each teleconference location has been identified in the notice and the agenda for this meeting. Madam Clerk, it would now be appropriate for you to conduct roll call, after which I will ask Councilmember Gingona to recognize me in order to confirm.
Ms. Christensen,
Here.
Mr. Gingona,
Here.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Present.
Ms. Manalo,
Present.
Mr. Sylvester.
Present. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I would now like to request that Councilmember Michael Gingona respond to the following questions. Councilmember, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Were you able to hear our items on this end up until now?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes.
Have you posted the agenda at the location where you're at?
Yes.
Is your location reasonably accessible to the public such that any member of the public could participate in a portion of this meeting or otherwise address any agenda item for this meeting?
Yes.
I would next request that council, including Councilmember Gingona, on the teleconference, speak up at this time if such council member has any reason to believe, based on voice recognition or otherwise, that those persons representing himself or herself to be Councilmember Michael Gingona is not truly so. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no council member has expressed doubt that Councilmember Michael Gingona is a party participating by the teleconference. I would now like to advise council members and the city clerk that any votes taken during the teleconference portion of this meeting must be taken by roll call. Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda. First item on the agenda is proclaiming February 2017 as Black History Month in Daly City. And we have Miss Leslie Pay. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and City Manager Pat Martell. It is with honor that I accept this proclamation for Daly City's recognition of February being Black History Month in our city and nation. I accept this on behalf of my late mother, Sarah Pay, former Lincoln Community Center Nutrition Site Manager, who in 1992, 25 years ago, invited to her home then Recreation staff Irene Jordahl and Steve Waters to discuss her desire to see a Black History Month celebration in Daly City. Thus, Black History Month in Daly City, the celebration was birthed. My mother had a beautiful sense of cultural pride as an African-American woman, but one of the biggest gifts she shared with Daly City, to our family, and to the world is the acceptance of all ethnic races. I believe this quote from Carter G. Woodson, founder of Black History Month, reflects my mother's sentiments well. Those who have no record of what their forebearers have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history. This is Carter G. Woodson. Over the past 25 years of this event, many hands and hearts have taken part in this event. I'd like to just name a few. Ike Elliott, Steve Waters, Angela Waters, Denise Brown, Opal Fuller, David Zetzer, Shayla Anderson, and more. These are just to name a few. The barrier of reach of this event has spanned not just within Daly City, but also down to Palo Alto, as well as San Francisco and over to the East Bay, sharing the African American experience, hope, and cultural richness to all. Many community financial partners have also been a part of this event. So with that, I'd like to invite you, the community, the Daly City Community Council, and everyone in the hearing of my voice, to please join us on Saturday, February 11th, 12 noon to 3:30 for Daly City's milestone celebration of the 25th anniversary of Black History Month. The location will be in Cafe Dolger, located in Westlake Park. It's a free event, except for a nominal cost for food. Event features this year include the Young, Gifted, and Black Youth Performance Group. Our theme this year is the crisis in Black education, yet hope prevails. Another group that will be performing is Dimension Dance Theater, the San Francisco Jazz All-Stars alum, and Daly City's own Robertson Middle School's Taste of Class Chorus. They are just a wonderful group. Poetry, to name a few. Come for the entertainment, but definitely stay for the soul food. Keith's Chicken and Waffles will be in the house. Keith is sitting right behind me, and he will be in full force with some delicious soul food items, as well as desserts by our own Opal of Westlake Deli, and more. Door prizes at the event's end. On behalf of my sister Risa Pay, who lives locally, and the entire Pay family back on the East Coast, thank you again for this honor, and we hope to see you on February 11th.
Ms. Pay, if you would just stand by, I have
Sure.
a proclamation for you. By the way, I've been by Keith's Chicken and Waffles many times, and I've told them that I would come by there and break in and get their recipes. And one of them said, it's all right here. So good luck with that. But anyway, Ms. Pay, I have a proclamation from myself and the rest of my council members. And basically, it's a proclamation, and it has many whereases. But since we got off to a late start, not your fault, I'm going to read the last line. Now therefore, I, Mayor Glenn R. Sylvester, and members of the City Council of the City of Daly City, do hereby proclaim February 2017 as Black History Month in Daly City, California, signed and sealed by the Mayor and the City Council and the City of Daly City this 23rd day of January 2017.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, there's one more.
Okay. Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I look forward to seeing you.
Great.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of January 9th. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes? Motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
should do a roll call on the
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. According to the Brown Act, yes. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen,
Here, yes. I approve it. I'm reading my agenda and thinking about waffles.
Mr. Gingona,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Motion pass. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
First and a second, roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Gingona,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura.
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. All right, the, has been approved. Next item is the consent agenda. Before we move on, is there any council member who would like to pull any items from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull
Council
number
members?
2.
Okay, item number 2, and I would like to pull item number 4. Let me confirm that, that's,
With the exception of item 2 and 4, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
is there a second?
Second.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Gingona,
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo,
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. The consent agenda has been approved. And now we go to the specific items that
Yes.
were pulled from the consent agenda. And I would like to offer the floor to Councilmember Christensen, who requested the pulling of item number 2.
And I think you have some cards on this one as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
This is an opportunity for the council to accept and to appropriate a $10,500 grant from the Daly City Public Library Associates. And I would like them to be able to come up and speak to the issue. But before that, if you out there are not a member of the Daly City Public Library Associates, this is a great opportunity for you to join. They do a tremendous amount of work to support our library since we're having serious budget problems here in Daly City, and in order to maintain any level of service in our libraries, the community is stepping up to support our libraries, and we invite you to be part of that. Step up, help your libraries, and go to the library, enjoy them. And let's have the speakers from the Daly City Library Associates come on up and
Thank you, Councilmember Christensen. We do have one card, and that's former Supervisor Adrian Tissier, Your Honor.
I basically just wanted you to see what retirement looks like.
looking good.
And thank you for the public service announcement. We always appreciate it. So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I have with me today a letter that I'd like to present to the mayor. And basically, it indicates the grant that the Daly City Public Library Associates is presenting to the city for the teen area in the Serramonte Library. And we were able to do this because the Carl Gellert and Celia Berta Gellert Foundation gave us $7,000, and the remaining $3,500 came from the St. Patrick's Day lunch that we had last year in our Fund a Need project. So we are very pleased to have received all those donations. And thus far, we have raised $128,100, which exceeded our $100,000 goal that we've been able to give to the city for the library system. With me today is the Vice Chair, Tom Nurse, another board member, Mike Pacelli, another board member, Jane Chambers, and we have Bill Lex, who is the liaison from the Daly City Board of Trustees for the library, here with us as well. So we're delighted to have them here. And one other thing I want to mention, there is an event this Thursday, January 26th at 4 p.m. at the Westlake Library, because we just finished, or your staff just finished redoing the teen area there, which we also donated money to. So we are going to continue to donate money for the library services here in Daly City, and I appreciate the announcement by Judith because we really want to continue to increase the membership, and we will also have our St. Patrick's Day luncheon this year as well. So I thank you very much, and Mr. Mayor, I'd love to present this to you.
Okay, is it appropriate for me to go up now, because we do have another card on this? But, no, let's take things one at a time. Okay,
But I have a little secret, Joseph already has the check. We wanted to get in the bank as soon as possible.
Thank you so much, a pleasure. And our city manager has to check over.
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I want to personally extend my gratitude to the library associates. I know that you are an active working group that has just, I think, performed exceptional. You are the gift that keeps giving in Daly City. It hasn't gone unnoticed. A lot of the things that you've done to improve our library, from computers to what you're doing now, it's just tremendous, and it's a great example of how a nonprofit can truly help our city. And so I want to thank you, your membership, your leadership, for everything that you've done, and it's a really great relationship. I hope we can continue and be the beneficiary of all your gifts. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you, Mr. Buenaventura. Excellent. I couldn't agree more. And Judith, I will let you know I'm a member as well.
Right.
And, Vice Mayor Manalo?
Yes, I would like to say thank you to all the work that you've done. I actually, as a young child, went to a lot of the Daly City public libraries. The one on top of the hill right before it became a museum in Westlake. And so your dedication to provide more resources for the youth and young people is really such a great gift to our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I have another card on the subject. Ms. Gabriella Maxman.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm also a member of the DCPLA and wanted to voice both my support and my concern. The Daly City libraries are part of the Daly City government budgets, and they were deeply affected by budget cuts with this new budget. And while I think it's really great, all of the work that the DCPLA is doing for the libraries, I don't think it's right to expect that they do all the work in terms of raising money and finding funds to ensure that the libraries are available to our kids. A lot of people that I've spoken to on the campaign trail were very saddened to learn that the library hours have been significantly decreased, and that library hours were specifically decreased very much on the weekends when a lot of people were going to the libraries. And it saddens me too that I cannot go to the library with my daughter during the weekends when I want to. So I know that there was a slogan, libraries are lives, during the budget process, and it's very sad that such an issue is polarizing. And I think that while the council is doing work to find ways to keep Engine 95 afloat, I think you should also devote time to figuring out how we can save our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Maxman. Okay, moving on. I'm sorry. Is there any, okay. Motion to accept the grant from the Daly City Public Library Associates.
So moved.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen,
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Gangona,
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura,
Aye.
Ms. Manalo, Mr. Sylvester.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next item that I request to be pulled was number 4, the check registers. Basically, I had a question about the check registers, and hopefully I can be brought up to speed. I see a lot of vendors on these check registers, and basically, they're the expenditures from our city. And I'm just wondering if we can get a year-to-date total as a way of tracking basically the expenditures. I've noticed from Mr. Sweetland's report, he offers a year-to-date total, what the budget is, and basically how we're doing. So I'm wondering if we can obtain a year-to-date total on that.
Mr. Mayor, we will be doing a year-to-date presentation, a mid-year budget review for the council within the next month. We're just closing the books right now, so we will be providing you with an overview at a council meeting probably late February. We will have completed our analysis and be providing you with a public presentation of that material.
Thank you, Ms. Martell. In addition, would that also include all the revenues that's coming into the city?
Yes, of course. It would be a review of all revenues and expenditures and how that may affect the overall budget of June 30th, 2017.
Thank you so much. That's all I have. Is there any other comments from council? Hearing none, request a motion to accept the check registers for the month of December 2016.
So moved.
Second?
First and a second, roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gangona?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye, motion carries. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is public hearings. Item number 5, zone text amendment, Zebra Charles -10-16-12395, and we have Mr. Lunkhausen and Mr. Motherhead. Welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. This is a zone text amendment to revise a number of sections in the Daly City Municipal Code, mostly within the R1 Single Family Residential District, as well as in Chapter 10, parking on front yard prohibited. The process that we've taken to get here is extends back into last spring. In fact, the City Council held a study session on this very topic of making some changes to the zoning ordinance as directed in the city's general plan, and there were a couple of council committee meetings that were formulated after that. And so staff has been given input by the city as council, as well as by the council committee appointed to provide direction in this process. And essentially, that's led us here today with the proposed revisions in front of the council. We're going to go over some of the justifications for the changes. Primarily, there's general plan implementation. So the city adopted a general plan in March of 2013 that directed the city staff to develop some changes to the code as an implementation measure of the general plan. We are also considering these changes in compliance with state law. More specifically, the state in the fall of last year adopted changes to what are called accessory dwelling units. We call those second units in Daly City, and basically mandated that the city adopt regulations in conformance with state law, and those are being presented tonight. We are also codifying recent and long-standing city policies. The city, from time to time operates on policy, and we would ideally codify those things so that they're actually a piece of law instead of just a policy material. We're closing loopholes, which oftentimes the public finds little ways of doing what they want to do inside our code and exploiting those things, and we're closing those loopholes. Proposing regulations for consistent review of projects, as well as addressing community concerns that have come about of late regarding the conversion of single-family homes to apartments. There have been concerns about the bulk and mass of buildings, and as well as the general lack of parking in neighborhoods, and we're trying to, as much as we can feasibly, address those issues. So the approach was, this slide essentially lays out all of the things we're going to be looking at tonight. We're not going to talk about each one of those things in the presentation, although they are all laid out, of course, in the staff report and as well as in the attachments to the staff report, the actual ordinance. They are accessory structures, fences, the number of parking spaces required, accessory dwelling units. We're going to talk about front yard paving, internal integration, interior common open space. We're proposing changes to garage opening and parking space dimensions. Residential design, so we're going to take a look at some of the common factors that we use in reviewing new residential buildings and additions to residential buildings to homes. Secondary pedestrian entrances, trash and recyclable storage areas, as well as the wet bar allowance. And in addition to the items here, we're also, as indicated in the opening slide, proposing some changes to Chapter 10, which would allow for off-driveway parking or an expanded driveway parking. So one of the first things that would be codified is the requirement for internal integration. When the city planners review a proposal for what is called rooms downstairs, the first thing that we look at is to make sure that there is a connection between the downstairs rooms and the upstairs rooms, and that's usually provided via an internal staircase. Currently, that's actually not a law in Daly City. That's a policy, and so the council would be acting tonight to make that an actual law. And this diagram on the screen provides an illustration of that. It's a typical configuration where somebody may propose a bedroom that is not adjacent to stairs, and so the people who occupy the dwelling have to walk through the garage area to get to the bedroom. And this is a very simple illustration, but an important one in that internal integration would be required in the city's code. One of the items that that we're proposing is a uniformity in residential design. And why this is important is to make sure that each of the planners that is reviewing new homes in Daly City, as well as additions to homes, are all following the same rules. And essentially, I'll briefly go over each one of these. What we want is that essentially when somebody proposes an addition to a home, that the architecture in terms of the roof pitch, the material, window trim all matches so that it looks like it was part of the original dwelling when it was built. We make some exceptions for things like patio covers, these sorts of things, gazebo type of attachments, those can't match. But when there's a structural attachment, we do want matching. One of the things that we run into from time to time is side yard setbacks. Sometime in most of Daly City is zoned R1, and there was actually a 0 side yard. But homes, and more specifically in the St. Francis and Westlake neighborhoods, do commonly provide at least a 3-foot side yard. And so we're proposing a regulation that would require that the side yard setback be continued along the existing setback. Pedestrian and garage entrances need to be recessed 24 inches. This is a city policy that we're proposing for codification, as well as all windows and garage doors receive trim. Driveways receive pavers with decorative bands, as well as we are proposing that third-story additions provide a 10-foot recess. The current policy is a 5-foot recess, and so that is intended to reduce the bulk of the mass of the third story from the street. And if you drive around Daly City, you'll see that this has been implemented over time, but we're proposing a 10-foot recess. Accessory structures are something that we often have to deal with in terms of people propose many accessory structures in their backyard, each one of them being less than 120 square feet. They say to the city, well, they're all exempt. Actually, we're proposing that that all structures within a rear yard, not in combination with each other, not exceed 120 square feet. So that would limit the number of accessory structures and the size of those accessory structures in the backyard. Those accessory structures would not be subject to any lot coverage, setbacks, or design review if they conform to that. However, the accessory structure would need to be located 6 feet from any dwelling unit on the same property, or 3 feet from any dwelling unit on an adjacent property. And that's an important thing, because right now you can actually build your accessory structure right next to your neighbor's house, and we do see a problem with that, and just in terms of fire safety. We don't know what people are putting inside their accessory structures, and
Next door to my house.
an important thing. We currently allow 15-foot tall accessory structures, and we're proposing that those heights be brought down to 10 feet unless the accessory structure met the setback for the home. So the home can be 30 feet tall, so we think it's reasonable that a accessory structure that conforms with the building setback be allowed to be 15 feet tall. accessory structures that need to be constructed on the rear half of the lot, as well as we're proposing a codification that no water or sewer fixtures be allowed inside accessory structures. Limited electrical work. So those are some of the changes that we're proposing for accessory structures, which are located, again, usually in the backyard of homes. So one of the key areas directed by our general plan is the provision of parking within the on residential lots. And usually this is related to persons who want to add on to their home or build a new home. And we are proposing a change to the regulations where parking would be based on the square feet of the habitable area. And we've divvied this up into 4 different square footage categories. And on the screen is the first one, where a home would, the habitable square feet, not including the garage, if it's 1,500 square feet or less, we would only require 2 parking spaces. And one of those parking spaces could be provided in the driveway, each one 19 feet long. And that's what's essentially shown in the slide. The 19-foot measurement begins at the back of the sidewalk and ends at the face of the garage door, and inside the garage begins at the back of the garage door and ends at the first permanent obstruction or in-swinging door. We also are proposing a piece of code that assumes a certain dimension for things like washers and dryers, so those are clear of that 19-foot dimension.
So if a person wanted to put a washer and dryer in that previous picture, they'd have to
They need
extend
22
the
feet.
garage into
That's
the
right.
habitable space.
We assume washers, dryers, furnaces, permanent appliances are 36 inches in width, or depth,
Depth.
rather. Yes, so, yeah, because there's all, people say, oh, well, my washer and dryer's not that, but that's what the code would assume.
That's that loophole issue.
Right, the loophole issue, exactly. So this is a parking provision for a home that has 1,500 to 2,000 square feet of habitable space. And the code would allow 3 parking spaces in tandem, 2 in the garage and again 1 in the driveway. One thing about this slide that should be pointed out, and it's not illustrated, is that if the city council does allow the off driveway parking space or an expanded concrete area here, that one of the 3 spaces could be provided off to the side. So that's something just important to note, because it's not illustrated, and we want to make sure that everybody understands that we could see an increase of front yard paving as a result of people wanting to have a 2,000 square foot habitable area home. So we want to make that very clear. So this slide illustrates the provision of 4 parking spaces, which would be required if the habitable area is between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet. 2 parking spaces in the driveway and 2 in the garage. And this is the current standard for building a new home, essentially. The city requires 2 parking spaces outside the front setback area, and that's constructed here. And then we get these 2 bonus spaces, and this is the
We've gotta
current
have
regulation.
those, yeah.
What the new code would say is that you'd have to have 4 parking spaces, but only if you were between 2,000 and 2,500 square feet. So that's something to note. So homes that are over 2,500 square feet would be required to provide 6 parking spaces. So a 38-foot clear dimension from the back of the garage door to the first permanent obstruction or in-swinging door, and 2 19-foot long driveway spaces. Again, this would be required for homes or additions resulting in habitable area that are over 2,500 square feet. There are people who don't have a double wide garage door who may propose an addition that results in their home being over 2,500 square feet. Those homeowners would be required to either expand the garage door, or they would not be able to provide 6 parking spaces, or they would not be able to either complete their addition or build the new home that they wanted. So if it's over 2,500 square feet. So we want to make that clear moving forward, that, you know, there are some implications of people, you know, who may not, homeowners who may not be able to expand beyond the 2,500 square foot mark.
I know this has been an issue that you hear out in the community a lot. Someone building what most people refer to as a monster home, but a big house, and not providing additional parking, and then having a whole lot of people live in there, and then those cars are all over the street, and they're halfway hanging in your driveway, and one thing and another, and this is an effort to help that. No guarantee that they will actually use their garage, but at least they have to have it. So it's an effort in the right direction.
Okay, so the parking provision is a major code change. And so we're going to move on to the accessory dwelling units, which are also a major code change. So presently, the city conducts density calculations. If a person comes to the counter and says they want to have a second unit, which is basically a second kitchen in their downstairs, the city staff, prior to the state adopting its new regulations, conducted a density calculation to find out if the neighborhood could accept additional second units in it. Also, the floor area was limited to 25% of the size of the entire home, including the garage. Owner occupancy was and actually still is proposed to be required, and a certificate of registration was and still is proposed to be required. In the fall of 2016, the state legislature adopted regulations which all cities must conform with, which required that second units instead be called accessory dwelling units, that they be allowed without discretion, without density calculations. The density for a second unit was assumed in those regulations to be the same as the home. So cities could not use density calculations to preclude second units anymore. As well as the state, maybe this is on the next slide actually, proposed that no additional parking would be required if the home where the second unit was proposed was close to transit. In fact, all of Daly City is close to transit, and so that regulation essentially removed our ability to require additional parking, whereas we previously required 2 parking spaces additional. The size of the second unit, pursuant to state law, is limited to 50% of the size of the existing living area. And the city staff has proposed that access to the second unit be the same side of the home as the primary entrance. A lot of this is particularly true in, say, the St. Francis neighborhood, where the entrance to each home is on the same side of the house. And so what we're trying to do is have the occupants to the second unit enter the home the same side of the home as the main residence upstairs, so as to maximize the ability for privacy to the adjacent homeowner. Sometimes this isn't possible because it requires trespass on adjacent property, and so we won't be able to do that, but that's what we're striving for. A major change also brought about by state law is presently detached accessory second units are not permitted in Daly City, or under the previous regulations, I should say.
So that's the little house in the back.
That's the little house in the back. So state law says that detached accessory dwelling units must be allowed. They're limited in size, and they're subject to the lot coverage regulations of the zone, but there's not a way that the city can preclude them from happening. The state law does allow us to retain the owner occupancy requirement, and we have done that. We've strengthened some of the language there. We are now going to require that the homeowner show us their driver's license. We make a photocopy of it with the address of the property where the second unit is as a proof of verification that the owner lives at the address. So we're sort of strengthening the submittal requirement there. So the accessory dwelling unit regulations are sort of a big thing. It's something in Daly City that we see a lot of. A lot of the what people think are second units are wet bars in the downstairs area, and that regulation would largely stay the same but be codified. We do allow a 5-foot wide wet bar with hot and cold water. It is, and the council should note that it is legal, as in not illegal, for people to rent rooms in their home out to individuals. There's nothing illegal about that. And so a lot of the changes to the accessory dwelling unit law really do just sort of legitimize something that's already happening in the community, and that is something that's important to recognize. Market forces, the housing market in particular, are creating a situation where people do need to do that, and it's true that that is happening in Daly City quite a bit. People in the community, tell us and tell you that that's happening, and it's true. So the accessory dwelling unit law in California does, though, advance the ability for those persons to have, for example, a kitchen in the downstairs of a home.
I have a question about the additional parking or no additional parking if transit is close. What was the distance, in measure? And you're saying basically
It's 1/2 mile.
1/2 a mile.
Mm-hmm. From a bus stop.
From a bus
Yes.
stop.
Yeah.
Yes, which is literally everywhere.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the next, what we'd call a major change, is the front yard paving. So currently, the Daly City Municipal Code states that contiguous paving may not be placed next to the driveway so that it could be used for parking. So when a homeowner comes to the city planning staff and asks, can I pave my front yard? We say yes, but you must provide a permanent vertical barrier that disallows you to park on that space. And the reason why we do that is that if we didn't do that, people would park on the space, receive a ticket from the police department, and then wonder why we let them pave that area when in fact that's actually a ticketable offense, and it is today. If you do not park within an area confined by the area 6 inches on either side of your garage door, you can receive a ticket for doing that. So
Then that same person calls a council member
yeah.
with a complaint.
So the council committee actually took a close look at whether we might want to just allow some contiguous paving, some we call off driveway parking. The driveway is the area in front of the garage door, so off driveway parking would be an area of the front lawn that is actually paved in concrete to accept car parking space. And the committee took a look at some of the examples that we provided to them. This shows the permanent vertical barrier, making it impossible to park a car on. This is another example. Sometimes it's not a raised area, it's just a planter area. So these are, in conformance with that regulation. A couple more examples of different houses around town that conform with our current requirement. We took a look at council committee and the city staff took a look at instances where off driveway parking was occurring, but maybe wasn't ideal for the reason that it is aesthetically not such a great thing. And what we noticed is that if we carved a landscape triangle out of this area, for example, or out of this area, that it may actually be something that may be more palatable from an aesthetic sense, as opposed to just allowing concrete everywhere. And that's what this photo shows. If we were to allow front yard paving without any landscaping, we would have, sort of a ribbon of concrete going right down the street. And that's not desirable from an aesthetic perspective, nor from a water quality perspective, stormwater quality perspective. And so we developed a regulation for front yard paving together with the council committee that allowed for some paving, but required that 25% of the front yard, defined as the area parallel to the front of the home, be retained in landscaping, in a landscape triangle, and that parking be allowed in this area. The apron to the home, although ideally would be expanded in such a way that it didn't take away a street parking space, would be allowed but not required. There are certain design requirements that would go along with this, including decorative banding, possibly coloring the concrete, things like this, so that we didn't receive sort of the stark concrete look. So there was a question that came about, well, what do we do about all the ones we have? And what we decided, and the council should discuss amongst itself, is that if the homeowner applied for a home improvement inside the home, that exceeded a certain dollar valuation, and we've proposed that valuation to be $50,000, but this is something the council can discuss amongst itself, that if they were to receive a building permit for that, that they would need to comply with this requirement. And so that's a sort of the catch in terms of gaining compliance with this in the future. And it is something that's important to consider because we have a lot of front yards that have already been paved, and we need to have a way to gain compliance on a programmatic scale, and that's the way that we'd propose to do it. So that, in a nutshell, is the front yard paving requirement. The landscape triangle would not be required of lots that are the 2,500 square foot lots. So in the older parts of the city, the landscape triangle would not be feasible because there's just not enough room. So this is mostly what we're seeing here on the screen is Westlake, St. Francis, Ceremony neighborhoods that would be required. The lots that are the greater than 3,000 square feet lots.
Can I ask a little question here? How would the one-time exemption work? So let's say you paved your spot, you've been parking on it for 5 years, and you've gotten a few tickets, but now this is happening. What do you do?
So the one-time exemption, you would be allowed to continue to, because we're going to, well, we proposed that section where that's ticketable be repealed, well, or amended rather. And so that would no longer be illegal, so to speak.
But how do you know who already has it and who doesn't have it?
Right, so what we're thinking of doing
Because right now,
is
everyone's
allowing-
thinking of driving to
Right,
Home Depot on the way home and buying a couple of bags of concrete.
right.
So,
Right. So what we've considered is having a program where people registered their front yard paving with the city staff.
so they like to take a photograph.
Exactly. It'd be a self-registration, something very easy to do. We'd set a date, by which you had to do that, and that self-certification, so to speak, would, then place you in a registry, if you will, of people who have been granted the one-time exemption.
Who've sort of been grandfathered in.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sort of grandfathered
Okay.
in. Excuse me. So, other proposed amendments, and there's one that I'd like to mention that's actually not on the checklist, so I'll mention that one first. So presently, in 3-story homes, we're finding it hard to make sure that the second and third floors of the home aren't being turned into separate units. And so the proposed regulations require that the staircase between the first and second floor be in a different location than the staircase that's between the second and third floors. That's not on the overhead, and it really should, because it's an important change of regulation. There's some nuances that are in the code pertaining to that, but it's an important thing that we're trying to prevent single-family homes being turned into duplexes, essentially, and that's what we want there. So another area we're seeing is living rooms, family rooms being converted, and so we're proposing that each home have a minimum interior common area required. I believe it's 100 square feet. So that you have to have a living room or a family room. We have some way of denying a plan check where people are proposing to turn all the rooms in the house into bedrooms. That's another little thing we're kind of going up against. Secondary entrances, and we've provided a slide that shows what we're talking about here, are ones where people have used their garage door. Probably the one on the left is, probably one of the more egregious, so to speak, examples, because they have 2 entrances using the garage door.
And they are not parking cars
They're
in
not
that
parking
garage.
cars in there.
That garage door hasn't been open in 20 years.
Right, exactly. So this gives us a tool to require that when we're doing a plan check, we can make sure that people have functional operating garage doors, and they're not being used instead as pedestrian entrances. So that would no longer be allowed, and we'd be allowed to catch it in a plan check. One of the areas is a trash and recycling bin. Storage is required. The city, of course, has a recycling program, but there's no place in your garage to provide recycling. So in a plan check or in a new home, there would be a certain dimension required for recycling bin and trash storage. We've also proposed codifying the wet bar allowance, 60 inches wide, 5 cubic square foot refrigerator. Hot and cold water is allowed, but these wet bars need to be limited in size, and we're codifying a policy essentially there. Which leads us to the revision proposed for Chapter 10.32, parking on the front yard, that I'd mentioned previously. If the City Council desires to allow this off-driveway parking, we do need to amend another part of the municipal code that's outside of the zoning ordinance, which is in this chapter. And the proposed language in that section is underlined, and it essentially allows an exception to the prohibition of parking on the front yard for homeowners who have been granted the front yard parking ability, either through the amnesty program or through the just allowing it by permit. Proposed changes, and there are others that I did not go over just for the sake of time. If you have any questions about those, we'd be happy to answer those questions. But the CEQA determination is that this project is exempt from CEQA. Oops. The Planning Commission has reviewed the changes back in December and recommended the City Council adopt them. So if there's any questions from either the council members or the city, the public, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mike. I do have a card on this particular item, but before I go into opening it up to the public, I'd like to defer to my council members if anybody has any comments.
Sure.
Vice Mayor Manalo.
Thank you. In regards to the garage, and I know we have a parking situation, and some of the proposals that you have is to provide an incentive for people that want to build or provide additions to their homes. But how do we monitor kind of, for instance, when people don't utilize their garage space for cars and it's only used for storage? Has there been kind of any thought about how to go about solving for that?
Yeah.
Well, technically, that isn't not allowed. It's using your garage space for any purpose other than storing a vehicle is technically not allowed by the zoning ordinance. The problem is that as a practical matter, there would be many people found in violation of that code section, and it would require quite an effort on the behalf of the city's code enforcement staff to actually go into people's garages and inspect them. It would have to be a program that's rolled out, on a very wide scale and something very well thought out. So this question does come up from time to time in the review of development projects, and this is essentially the answer: is that technically you can't do that legally, but enforcing that part of the zoning ordinance would be very tricky.
And is it true, people can't just, a building inspector can't just walk up to someone's house and say, I want to see what's in your garage?
No, usually.
You know, this is America,
Right.
you have
Warrants.
certain rights, and that's one of them. And I can guarantee everyone in town, 33,000 households would say, not today.
Right. If somebody's caught doing illegal construction, then, then we have the
Leaving their
ability to
garage door
measure.
open and having stuff, building materials out in front of your house, all that kind of stuff. I've definitely seen people get nailed on that. Yeah.
No, it's a real problem, absolutely. And you
Sure
bring up a
is,
very
yeah.
good point. It's just as a practical matter, again.
I think one of the big concerns that people have is not so much about the storage of stuff, but the fact that people are living in their garages. And some people are renting out their garages when these are not areas that are safe or healthy. And there's a big concern about that as well. But unless you see a violation, it's very hard to get access.
Yep.
Also, another question I had is, you have that area where there's some, I think, area for grass or did we find that idea from another or a city, or is just something that came about? I'm just curious if there was any other examples.
No, this is something that we developed uniquely.
So when it comes to parking on if you did a paved area, is there a law or regulation that directs how you should park the car there? In other words, can you park parallel to your house if you wanted to? And
You could.
so there's no restriction of,
Just to be clear, and it's a good question, because the example you see on the screen is for the wider lots in Daly City.
yeah.
Westlake, Ceremony, St. Francis. On the east side of the freeway, some people they have a very minimal front yard. And some people do park parallel to the street. So long as you're not blocking so our regulations, the way crafted, so long as you're not violating any other laws, such as blocking the city sidewalk or having to drive over the city sidewalk in an unsafe manner, you could park parallel.
Okay.
And sometimes you'll drive around, especially in my neighborhood, and see people with smart cars. And because they're so small, they can fit 2 smart cars in basically the space that a regular car would take. And so you see some very creative, legal, under this new plan, but very creative parking.
I was curious, and one of the pictures that you showed was the one where, go forward. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. Oh, there, right behind, that. So that one. So the picture on the left, so if you had 4 garbage containers, that's equivalent to almost a car spot. And what I've seen is 4 of those on the road will occupy basically 1 spot. Is there a regulation that we have that regulates how those containers?
Toters?
Yeah.
That I don't know about.
Just for clarification, are you asking about the toters when they're on the private property or on the
When they're on
sidewalk?
the street, I've seen them on the street.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if there's any regulation about how they are on the street, but I do know they are not allowed to be in public view on private property after more than 24 hours of garbage pickup. Mr. Mayor, through the chair, maintaining your garbage receptacles, your toters on this public right-of-way is illegal. We allow for it on collection day for the ease of collection because we have an automated system now. So people bring it out to the street and then it gets dumped and then it's put back on the street. But the same regulation about keeping it out of public view after 24 hours applies with any garbage receptacles left on the street. In fact, we would cite property owners for keeping them beyond 8 hours because they're supposed to remove them the same day that they get their trash picked up.
Now I have a question about the garbage receptacles there as well. So if you're on a 25-foot lot and your house goes the full 25 feet, you've got a small, like that's an older house, so it does not have a large enough garage for an SUV and garbage receptacles. So what happens there?
This is what happens, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Throw it outside.
That's
yeah.
exactly what happens. And new houses have to provide an official space.
They would
for it.
have to, yes.
But older homes and homes that literally have no garage, no driveway, and they're built wall to wall, which many houses in the Crocker and original Daly City are. I mean, the garbage cans, you're damn lucky they're using the garbage cans and the recycling bins, you know. It's
Mr. Mayor,
difficult. Yeah.
what Councilmember Christensen has said is absolutely correct. And over time, the city has effectively looked the other way with violations like this
Yeah.
and have not cited residents who have the extreme difficulties as represented in that photo where there is physically no place for them to remove their trash receptacles off of their private property from view. The same is true with respect to parking. So the question that was raised earlier by Councilmember Buenaventura about allowing vehicles to be parked parallel, we also look the other way when property owners park parallel and block their own driveway apron, so they park in front of their driveway, or maybe partly on the driveway and partly on the public right-of-way. If it's the property owner's vehicle, as long as they're not encroaching on the sidewalk, we look the other way for those kinds of violations, in recognition of the fact that we have such a significant parking problem, particularly on the east side of the city. So we have made it, a conscious choice not to cite people in those instances where they, through, a lack of alternatives, they have to do that. The trash receptacles, we've had reports from people over the years, they don't like seeing that in their neighborhood, and when we've gone out to investigate, if they don't have any other place to put them, then we've allowed them to violate our requirement that they be placed out of view.
So I had a question about the apron. I never heard of that term, and I'm glad I know now that's what it's called. So if we have a situation where we're allowing the paving of what would have been, let's say, a lawn, how does one go about, if one wanted to, increasing the size of that apron? And are we regulating how much that apron can extend?
Yes. So we would allow the photo on the right provides a good example. In this case, the frontage of this lot, the depth from the back of the sidewalk to the face of the house is probably adequate to not really need an expansion of the apron. But if they wanted one to get it on this area a little easier, they could apply to the Public Works Department to expand that apron a little bit, and I'm just showing here with the mouse where it might be. So long as the on-street parking space dimension is not negatively affected, meaning that the parking space dimension in the street did not drop below 21 feet. Because what we don't want to do in what we're allowing here is jeopardize the neighborhood parking situation.
Okay, good. And so in that picture also, let's say it's that situation where they have paved it over. I've seen where people have put these tents over their cars. Is that being regulated? Is that allowable?
It's technically not allowed.
You're not allowed?
It's an accessory structure on the front half of the lot, which is not allowed.
Okay.
A tent over their vehicle.
Yeah,
In your neighborhood?
Like a carport.
a carport.
Like a
Yeah,
canvas
I've seen that.
I mean, I've seen it in my neighborhood, but
Yeah, no, it's not.
I've seen
the
it.
guy finally moved away, but. And I would just like to make sure that, because street parking is so sacred, is that we not even consider that spots smaller than 20 feet. If you can park a car there, like a smart car, that maybe we should say, thinking about the reality of how people park, that if it's a 10-foot space, I mean, how long is a smart car? I don't know. We should get out there and measure one.
10, 12 feet.
Or some other, a Fiat, one of those small ones, and say, how long are they? Because that could be a spot. There's more and more people buying those smaller vehicles. And we don't want to take away just because this guy wants a bigger driveway. We want to, and he maybe has a 12 or 14-foot space in front of his house. We don't want to lose that.
You're suggesting
think
that we
about
just not allow the
Well,
curb cut
no, that
expansion
we
at all?
look at the space.
Because we would use the guidance of, the city's zoning ordinance has a 21
Right.
foot parking space dimension that we would assume that to be a parking space. But I think what you're saying is that you could possibly get 2 smart cars, and if that space was, say, 23 feet, you wouldn't want to lose.
Yeah,
Am
yeah,
I tracking what
yeah.
you're saying? And that makes some sense.
Or if it's a 12-foot space and you say, okay, take half of it away,
Oh, no, we wouldn't do that.
okay.
Right? I don't think we'd take away a 12-foot space. I think we would, so we wouldn't want to make a 12-foot smaller.
Yeah,
I
down to
mean,
maybe
if
9.
we were down
so
at
you
7
couldn't.
or, if we were at 7 feet or something, then we might
Because you
do
want,
that.
if anybody could park anything
Right,
there,
exactly.
we want to keep that.
Exactly.
Because I know we start taking away street parking and we're all gonna be getting a lot of phone calls.
Right. When we allow this, it is gonna be on a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis, and we, you know, and actually the regulations that we're adopting
Uh-huh.
tonight don't actually specify a
Right.
requirement here.
Right.
But as a policy matter, because we're in the public right of way now, and the zoning ordinance, what we're taking a look at tonight only pertains to private property. But as a policy matter, what we could commit to do is, to not negatively impact neighborhood parking. And I think that, taking away anything that could accommodate, you know, between one or more cars, we should not allow, even the smallest car, right?
Any other comments? I have one. Well, first of all, I'd like to commend staff of the Planning Division for your hard work on this. I've read the material here, and at least, I mean, I get it, but I want to make sure the citizens understand it as well. Now, I've read a lot here from Southern Hills where they were offered an opportunity to present a position paper on their concerns. You've already answered the question about transportation. It's because they're indicating better transportation, but you said it was 1/2 mile from the bus stop to their home, so that's within qualifications. But, you know, I'm trying to put myself in the citizens' shoes. It's tough in the northeast part of this city to park. And I have to commend you. You did an excellent job to try to address this while at the same time looking aesthetically pleasing. So, it just says here in the document that offers Southern Hills, the citizens, to present their concerns, and if you haven't heard anything, then, the other question I had is, it's a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What if somebody buys the house and is not in compliance? Can you force the new owner to tear up that sidewalk and make it compliant?
And the new homeowner would be subject to the same rules as the previous owner.
I thought I'd ask. And lastly, for the folks in the audience, I have to advise that Daly City is very, as the city manager made mention, they look the other way, but Daly City has good parking requirements, because in the city of San Francisco, for every residence that's built, they only get .25. So you have to build 4 residences and must have 1 parking spot. So enjoy it now while you can, folks, because we have some good areas and parking. That's all I have. Okay. We do have a card on this.
Open public hearing.
Right. So with the permission of the council, I'd like to now open it up for a public hearing. Okay, we have a Berta Garley? Garrity. Ms. Garrity, thank you so much, and you have 2, yes, ma'am. Be advised, you have 2 minutes, okay?
Okay.
I don't want to rush you, but.
Everyone says I speak very slowly, though. Good evening. I'm Berta Garrity, resident of Daly City for 45 years and an educator for 42 years here. And I have seen many changes, and you brought them all about, so I really don't have that much to say, except that the drought brought a lot of this about, because what we were seeing were dry pieces of land, and then people spraying pesticide, and which wasn't good for our communities. But being the creative community that we are, we saw the growing of pavements and pavers and very, I thought, pretty decorative plants. And then the growing of our community, which is good because we have a diverse culture, and I'm proud to be a member of it. So I just wanted to make sure we could park another car on our pavers. That's pretty much why I'm here. And you did a very good job explaining it. There's still some things that I don't understand, but I probably can call and ask you or anybody on the council. Okay, thank you. Stay.
Thank you so much, Ms. Garrity. And please don't hesitate to reach out. These folks are open for you, okay? I just received another card, a David Beaumont. Dave? Okay, thank
Good evening, Mayor and council members, and to the branch office in Passig. Good to know. I first want to commend the planning manager for his work on this. In my work across many jurisdictions in the Bay Area and the Peninsula, this is the type of work that's typically done by a long-range planning department. This is and/or outside consultants. So handling this in the middle of taking care of people at the counter and everything is very, very commendable. And I'm not just saying that because he paid me to. So I support the goals of this long-needed amendment. It's very comprehensive in its scope, and I'm going to limit my comments to just address new development, since that's the area that I focus on. And I'm not sure if the sheet was distributed to. Oh, okay, good. With respect to, I'm just going to cover three elements. The first one is relating to the parking garages, and again, this is for new development. I'm not referring to accessory units or the issues that you've mostly been touching on this evening. But I believe that utilization of the 16-foot compact ratio when you have two units, when you have two parking spaces that are side by side and perhaps you need a third space, that space can be better accommodated by placing it in tandem. I'm not sure, Mike, if you could show that
tandem
one. I'll point it to, yeah, there you go. So in the instance of a less than 2,000 square foot, for instance, you would have, well, okay, so here, you would have two, and then you would have the third one here, and of course a fourth and a fifth one here. And what that does is allows, it allows several things to take place. It allows both the usage of the standard ordinance code for 25-foot dimensions, as well as allows the use of a smaller, more denser, more compact development. And that's just what we're going to be seeing, and we have been seeing in Daly City. We're going to continue to see that and more of that. And employing the use of using a 16-foot as opposed to two 19-foot sections, so you have a 19 and a 16. And one of the things I wanted to call the attention to that is that over 50% of the vehicles that are now used are less than 16 feet in size. Over 1/3 are less than 14 feet in size, and the smart car category is in the 10 feet in size less. And that's the reality of the existing base of vehicles out there. And I look at this as a way of reconciling the reality of that with the needs of what new development is demanding upon Daly City. You've got a very narrow needs for that. The second area is relating to receptacles. We have done, my colleagues, my staff and I and other consultants, close examination of what those receptacle usage toters are. And believe it or not, the large blue one, that there was a photo here, I'm sure most people know the large blue one. It looks very large. It is 2 feet wide and 2 feet 8 inches long in terms of its plan view. There it is right there, right in that corner. And the request in this proposal is for 3 feet by 8 feet. I submit to you that a 2 feet by 6 feet or 2 feet by 7 feet might be a better way to implement this in new development, since although people do often sometimes think about putting the garbage in new development at the interior rear, the much preferred location is at the front and near the portal. And I should inform you that it's just a very taxed area. That front portal on a new development, and typically they're even narrower than this in some cases in PUDs and so on, that you've got new PG&E requirements with respect to the gas meters, no longer like the way it used to be. You've got shear wall requirements, you've got entry, you've got garage portal requirements. It's a severely taxed area, and there's just no room to have a 3 foot or 3'6" if you include the wall space for that receptacle. I'd like if staff could perhaps look at a more constrained size to that, or allow themselves greater discretion in reviewing applications to see that the need is actually met versus just a 3 feet by 8 feet. I think it was Councilmember Buenaventura, 2 or 3 or 4 of those, and you almost got a size of a smart car space. And we're dealing with very compact lots and even more compact, and that's just what's coming down the pipeline. The last point I would mention to you is that the step of 2,500 to 3,000, Mike, I think it was the second or third one after that, which requires 6. I'm wondering if, no, right, that was good right there. The next step is, 25 to 6. There's no, it jumps from 4 to 6. And I think that there could be an incentivization for applicants coming forward to develop or propose projects that are 2,900 square feet or less and supplying 5 spaces versus 6, instead of jumping directly from 4 to 6. And that might be a better impact and to the city to given areas where that type of development comes forward. So that is about it, and I'm happy to address any questions regarding any aspects of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Beaumont.
Move to close public hearing?
We got none.
Oh.
This is on the same item? Okay, great. Okay, Ms. Dana Smith, item number 5.
Yes, actually, keep that slide up here. I had, in the past year, I think I've come up twice talking about this whole proposal of providing more parking based on square footage of houses, and so I'm really happy, very happy to see that this is moving forward. Right across from where I live, there are 2 new houses and a house that's being renovated that have 8 bedrooms each. And according to, they don't have to fulfill this, but what it means for my neighborhood and my block is catastrophic. We're very close to San Francisco State. The owner has suggested that he's going to rent to students. So there's going to be probably 2 people per each of the 8 bedrooms. And so I would like to say keep as much parking for this over 2,500 square feet. I think it's really good to have the 6 parking spots to maximize that, because we're seeing some very big houses, lots of bedrooms packed in, and I'm really happy to see too that requirements to require common space, the retention of common space, because these houses are being turned into literally just boarding houses. and the parking is catastrophic over in the east side. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Lead.
Move to close the public hearing?
Second.
Moved and second. Roll call, please.
Ms.
Oh,
Christensen?
you do?
Yes?
Oh.
Mr. Gangona?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. Thank you very much. So, a motion for the city attorney to read by title only.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Gangona?
Aye.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Aye.
Ms. Manalo?
Aye.
Mr. Sylvester?
Aye. And now, turn it over to Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Daly City amending Title 17 regarding zoning ordinance and amending Chapter 10.32 regarding parking.
For different, this is public appearance.
Motion to adopt the resolution.
No adoption necessary. This is first reading.
First reading, Mike, no adoption necessary. Thank you.
Introduction.
I would like very much to introduce this particular ordinance.
Please do.
Okay, I'd like to introduce these ordinance, and let me tell you why. My neighborhood, back in 2003, sponsored a parking summit. People from all over the city came, city staff came, and the off-driveway parking was one of the major proposals by people from in the Crocker, in Hillside, and in original Daly City. And to see it finally come to fruition. All my neighbors who call me all the time because they got tickets over the, 14 years. Okay, we got it done. It took a while. Thank you for letting me introduce it. That's it.
Wow, I wanted to hear more. I like that story. Thank you, Councilmember Christensen,
I've
for
got all the
sharing that with
details.
us. All right. I think we lost Mike.
Yes. At 8:50,
Okay.
for the record.
For the record, we lost Councilmember Gangona. However, he may call back, but I don't think we need any more. Okay, let's move on to public appearances. I'd like to open it up to, thank you, Ms. Tatum and Mike. I'd like to open it up now for public appearances and oral communications. Okay, here we go.
Do we have any more? No, that's it.
Okay, I have 3 cards. I have a Tony Pastrano. I think I saw him earlier. Tony? Oh, all right. No Tony. I saw him earlier. He was sitting up there in the front. Okay, the next card I have is a Ingrid Chan and a Hector Chan from one Chan family. I think they were together with Mr. Pastrano. Hopefully, they will see this. I apologize again for how late we're running, but please do come back. Okay, all right, thank you. And the last card I have is a Gabriella Maximum.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I wanted to speak on, in regards to the meeting 2 weeks ago where there was a very extensive, heated debate about Daly City becoming a sanctuary city and us spending resources in order to do research in regards to that. And I'd like to point out, I feel that that's really, in terms of the various priorities that the city has and that the city council should have, is really misguided. There's other things and progressive things that could be addressed. For example, do we know for a fact that women and men are paid equally in the city? And if not, why not? As far as I know, there's currently no Daly City residents that are asking for sanctuary, but there are plenty of residents that live here. And I think that it's really important to balance being a progressive council and being progressive in thinking about how to put Daly City on the map and in the news about different policies that are being passed, while also actually serving the citizens' needs in the city, and the citizens today, not potential people that are coming here. And I think when you ask the city manager and the staff to do research on things that are more personal to you, and not necessarily issues that are really important to all of the citizens in Daly City, you become, you lose credibility. And for me, I really saw that last week, and it was a little disappointing. So I think that, it's really important that the issues that you consider are those that are necessary for people living here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maxman.
Perfect timing.
We have another one.
We have another card. Pamela Giovanni.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Yeah, hopefully this will help. In the wake that we just had the Women's March this past weekend, and that we're all searching for equality, I like to commend, and then the other 2 members of our council, the mayor and vice mayor, are probably not privy to this, but Councilmember Ray Buenaventura at the time, and Councilmember Christensen was at the time when there was a vote. We do have a resolution in our city. It's called Cities for CDOT, and if you guys remember that. And that is to end discrimination against women and girls. So we did progress, and we were the first city to adopt that as well. So that was also in support, and Ms. Martell was very instrumental in that as well. So I would like to say that we are the first city in San Mateo County to do so, and I'm very proud to say that given the wake of the Women's March. So it did address equality in our city, and we do, and we know that from Ms. Martell that we have great women leadership in some of our departments as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Giovanni. No other cards?
I want to fill out another,
You want to fill out one? Okay.
You can give it to us after you speak.
I'd like to know who he is.
I mean, the camera's rolling here.
Just tell me your name.
I write fast. I just have something brief to say. Okay, you ready?
What's your
Council
name, sir?
people? Barry Rodriguez.
Thank you,
I've
Mr.
been here
Rodriguez.
13 years.
Yes.
I met you not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
Through Mo. Gala.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I got a beef here with the city about all the street work. And my observation, and I have complained to the police department, and they've got on it, is that the contractors that put out there working on the street, sometimes they don't have a flagman, sometimes they set up, it doesn't make any sense the way they're set up, it's very dangerous. And I think there needs to be more oversight when we got contractors out here. Sometimes they're in the main intersections off the Skyline or 35, and there's no traffic control, it's real dangerous. I got called and reported to keep from accidents from happening. I'm not happy about it at all. They need be oversight when they do all this street work. It's so bad, we're gonna be like San Francisco, where it's almost, you can't even drive in San Francisco because of all the street work. If they're gonna do street work, they gotta have flagmen, they gotta have it done safely. If they can't control traffic, then something's gotta be done about it. And I've seen it, on Hickey in Daly City, coming up here on the top Skyline in Hickey. You're coming up the hill, going towards Pacifica, a big truck right in there, and there's and they're doing work there, and there's enough. They don't have it set up so you have enough of an idea that it's coming up. That's just one example. I've seen it on Westmore and Skyline, where they've done major work, and there was a place you couldn't even walk across the street, the way it was set up, and I've complained about this numerous times. So I think there needs to be more oversight on that kind of thing. If you got a question, just ask me, because I keep track of this and I take pictures of this stuff. And I complain. I don't think they put these guys out there to do this stuff, and they're private contractors. And if you don't have oversight, they don't feel obligated to make it safe. And we're the ones driving around. So I don't like it. So that's what I'm saying. If I got a chance to say something, I'm gonna say it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Yes, Councilmember Buenaventura.
I'm wondering if we can ask the city manager to look into these statements, because I think that is actually really important. And maybe
We certainly will follow up. By way of information to the council, Mr. Rodriguez, I would really like to get whatever photos or information that you've previously submitted to the city, because it's never been presented to me, but I will certainly follow up on it. Our Public Works Department does provide oversight for all street work in the city, and we have closed jobs down that have not been adequately coned and without adequate notice to vehicles driving up to an area. So I would be glad to follow up on whatever particular cases that you have documented, if you could provide me with that information.
Well, I've called in on it. I don't know if they keep track of it on dispatch when I've called in on it, and they've dispatched like motorcycle cops, control intersect stuff. I must have done that 3 or 4 times. Over on the Westmore side, they've had major construction, and the way it was, one part going across Westmore Skyline. There was no place for pedestrians to walk at one point. And then there was other things where it needed traffic control when they did that big major job over on the Westmore, on the ocean side of Westmore there. So I'm going to document it and bring you, but I must have called in 3 times at least.
Okay. I'll have the police check with dispatch, because I don't monitor the dispatch, but I certainly can get that information.
Mr. Rodriguez, thank you so much. And as per our city manager, she is definitely concerned about this, so please stay in contact with her, okay? She said she'll look into this, and rest assured, she will look into this. Thank you. All right. Where were we? That was
6.
public appearances
Yeah.
and whatnot, okay. All right, next item on the agenda is appointments, board, commission, membership committees, and appointments. Item number 6. I would like to have a motion to appoint a representative to the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency, BASCA.
Is that your motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Who
Appoint Jocelyn Manalo Vice Mayor Jocelyn Manalo to the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency.
I'll second that.
We'll have a roll call. Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Thank you so much. Moving on to reports, we'll start with council committee, and I'll turn that over to Councilmember Christensen.
We had Councilmember Gangona and myself had a committee meeting on a property in the Bay Shore on Geneva. It is a mixed-use building. The first floor was designed to be commercial, and then upper floors were residential. The owner of the property has been having a great deal of difficulty renting a certain area of the building. And the reason, they came to us and said, we want to add more residences on the first floor. We said, no, no, no. We need more business. They went out, they did an extensive search to find businesses that would come. But the problem is, the building, the first floor is not level with the street. So if you're walking along the street, part of the commercial property is below grade. So if you put a sign on your building to advertise your business or something, it's too low. You can't see it above the cars. So it's partially like below the ground and partially above the ground. The second problem was they tried, a baker was actually kind of excited about getting that space, but the delivery area is not big enough for delivery trucks. And so it's a faulty design on the building from the beginning. And so we came to the conclusion that it's just not going to, businesses are not going to come there. So at this point, to move forward with having it turn into residences. And what they were looking at is a unit that's like a studio apartment, and then a loft, and would encourage people who had a home business. Particularly, we were talking about potentially graphic artists, someone who has an individual personal kind of business that the loft could be for either for your living space or the other way around, that could be for your business. And that would, because we're always looking for, taxes to come in to support the city. So we were hoping that, maybe some business taxes would come in from that. But it seemed that making this decision to go residential was pretty much the only option that the owner of the building has. They certainly made diligent efforts to bring in business. So that's all we talked about.
Councilwoman Christensen, thank you for that, because I had concerns, because it's near the Bay Shore area. And
right on Geneva.
We lack that retail. And for them to go out and try to get a tenant to come in, and like you said, the constraints of it being below ground, I mean, they need a bank out there, but it's hard to advertise if you're driving up Geneva that there's a bank down there, or a post office.
Yeah.
So I think that's very valuable.
Yeah, and they do have
information.
some commercial tenants.
Right.
That the neighborhood's actually, places to eat and stuff, the neighborhood's tending to congregate there, which is great.
Subways and McDonald's.
Yeah. No, McDonald's is not there. It's across the street.
Yeah. All right. Any other committee meetings report? All right, I have one. Not too long ago, I attended something called the SFO Roundtable. And you're never too old to learn. I did not realize, I guess it didn't affect me, but there's certain parts of Daly City that has airport noise and concerns. I met a resident from Westlake, and I think we have a concern up in the Southern Hills area. So just wanted to let everybody know I'm in tune. I will be attending those SFO roundtable meetings in representing our city, and I hope to come up to speed to learn more about those, the airplane noise. Okay, any other, Vice Mayor Manalo?
I do have some reports. I was happy to sit in for you, Mr. Mayor, on a couple of meetings last week. And so I attended the San Mateo County Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Service Group. It's a joint powers authority on January 18, 2017. And at that meeting, they did an update on the communications project that they have on the docket, also an EMS system update. They also created an official policy for the operating reserves, which was at $250,000, and passed a resolution, which was 1701, that establishes parameters for any future utilization of those funds. Also, appointment of the County Fire Chief Ian Larkin. He got appointed as the new Zone 5 representative. Just some information about the committee for all of those that are listening and also in the audience. The San Mateo County Pre-Hospital Emergency Medical Service Group was established as an agreement that requires the creation of a JPA management committee. This committee is composed of 6 voting and 1 non-voting ex officio member. The members include the board chair or his designee, 5 individuals who are either city managers, fire chiefs, or special district administrators, each selected from and representing one of the 5 zones created by the board. And we are, Daly City is part of that. So I was happy to attend in your place, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so
Also, thank you. Also on January 19, I also attended the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services meeting in Redwood City. The county representative was actually our supervisor, David Canepa, which was a great surprise. We got updates on the Skylound radio tower construction, in which the site's anticipation of completion is June 2017, with Verizon as the contracted company. Also, the hazard mitigation plan shows the Office of Emergency Services Joint Powers has more than enough resources to pursue the 5-year program. There were multiple awards that evening. There were the George Berry Memorial and the Silver Award CAC. Also, they gave the new members a welcome, and they will be sending you a packet, Mr. Mayor. On November 17th, there was also a train derailment EMS ACR statewide drill, so an emergency drill. And for those of you out there that don't know, there is an SMC alert. It's a real-time alert through emergency communication, and you can customize this to public safety, road closures. So if you go on to www.smcalert.info, and you can sign up for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Manalo. Any other committee reports? All right, thank you. Next item is 8, reports, City Council. Anyone? Vice Mayor Manalo.
Yes, I just want to, it's just been a huge concern about affordable housing and within the Bay Area and even within the peninsula and Daly City. And so when I was just wondering around how we utilize our outreach mechanisms. For instance, there was some affordable housing opportunities, which were BMR ownership programs. And so with that, I think if the citizenry and community knows about these BMR programs, even if they're not rental but home ownership, and that's why I would ask our city manager for that information to find out how many people applied. I'd really like to look at just the participation and how we disseminate our information around affordable housing to our Daly City residents.
We would be glad to provide that follow-up information. In fact, we actually have a list of all of the different marketing avenues that we used, including from Seton Hospital and a number of other outreach venues to be able to reach people. As I mentioned in the email that I responded to your question, we did have over 600 residents apply for only 11 affordable units that were available in the two most recent housing developments that were made available for below market rate units. And out of that, about 526 applicants were actually deemed to be qualified, because there are income qualifications. So we had almost 700 apply. Out of that, over 500 were deemed eligible, but there were only 11 units. So, but I would say that given the number of units that we had available, we had quite a big response from people who did apply for it. But we would be glad to share with you all the different sources that we use to reach residents in the community when these opportunities become available.
That'd be great. I'd like to work with you on that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Manalo. All right, I've been kind of sitting back here, but I would like to state something for the record. First of all, I'd like to thank the city manager, Pat Martell. The past 2 weeks, Vice Mayor Manalo and I have had the opportunity to speak with every department head here in Daly City. And not only did we speak to each department head, but we walked around and tried to see every employee. And Mr. Sweetland left, but I did learn about the glory of Daly City at wastewater, and something that even I wouldn't do. But I say that because I found that Daly City and its workers, they want to be here. And that's why I love this Daly City so much, because of the workers and the staff who is here. In the famous quote by Socrates, even though it's masculine, I'm going to apply it to the women here in the audience as well. I may be the wisest man or woman alive, for I know one thing, and that is, I know nothing. What I am looking for is transparencies in all areas of government and also for the people. Contrary to what folks may say or see that is perceived, rest assured, I will continue to build that trust that there are no closed doors meetings or personal agendas while I am sitting up here on the dais. Every community in our city has its unique challenges and issues. As you have seen earlier, the parking problems in northeast area of Daly City, lack of retail within the Bayshore area, and those are just a couple of the problems we have here in Daly City. We have many issues. Besides our communities, we have many other areas to focus on and to prioritize. We must come together and work together to find a path to find solutions. In order to do this, we need, and you folks out there need to know the facts and have complete transparency. I have asked the city manager to begin providing information and updates on the following. Now, granted, there's going to be many, many more, but I'm only one person. I have my colleagues here. Together, we will work on these issues, but you have to come to us and tell us. Don't come always with a problem. Give us an idea for a solution. We cannot do everything. So some of the ideas I've asked the city manager to look in, and she has informed me, we already have that. Well, you see, I didn't know that, but we're going to move forward. One is a traffic committee to advise on parking issues, which will consist of, I would say, planning, the chief of police, two other individuals, public works, someone from the community. We need to start moving on that. As Vice Mayor Manalo has made mention to me, she is concerned about the youth in our city. I would like to establish a youth advisory committee to consist of maybe one student from every school in this city to sit here together and tell us some of the problems that they may have. I'm almost done, folks. I'm concerned about the lowering of our flags to half-mast for certain occasions. I have not seen it done. And it took a 14-year-old Daly City resident to put that up on Facebook. What's wrong with this picture? I like a street fair to get our diverse cultures together and come together and meet each other and just be together. Daly City is all about culture and diversity. I would also like to consider raising the minimum wage for folks here in Daly City as well. That's coming down the pipe. That is just a few of them, folks, just a few, and I'm sure there's going to be more, but I am open. So, I am Vice Mayor Manalo had made mention about the committees, and so did Councilmember Judith Christensen. Folks, and Councilmember Christensen, I would like to say, and Buenaventura, I had no idea as to the work you folks did up here. And when I got this list of committees, and Councilmember Christensen says, well, Glenn, if everybody does their share, you will be on 13.9 committees. I am going to post this up on the internet so you folks will see what it is we do here besides just sitting here at the council. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes, and if you don't know, ask. I would like website updates. This is going to be one item to be placed on the website. Number two, if there's any citizen and those watching, please reach out to the city clerk, give her your name, and she will tell you and send you the agenda every month. A good mentor, twice a month, thank you. A good mentor told me, if you've done nothing wrong, you fear nobody. And I want to ensure complete transparency. I'd like to also open up and watch for this coming to open up my office, because if the citizens want to come in and you want to talk to me, you can come in and talk to me. I am also offering this to my fellow colleagues here. If you want to use my office to speak to anybody in the community, by all means do so, please. It's open for you folks as well. So I just hope that during this year and when the time when I step down and as a council member, that we will continue this together. And let's get Daly City back on track. And I don't know, words can't explain, but thank you, folks. Thank you so much. And that's all I have. Anybody else? Thank you. All right. Oh, we still got two more items, huh? Oh, Vice Mayor Manalo, did you have something?
Yeah, I do. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to continue to add on to the council is we need to continue to look for resources to see if we can find resources for Engine 95. I looked over the statistics on the incidents of the top kind of 20 areas where fire dispatch on firedispatch.com, and it shows, you know, out of the 20, 4 of our fire stations are in those top 20 areas. So I think it's really important for us to continue to work to see if we can find a way to reinstate that, because it's really important. Data is showing here that, you know, out of the 20 districts, You know, it's, you know, Fire Station 92, Fire Station 94, Fire Station 95, Fire Station 91. I mean, the data is showing how much the emergency services and our fires needed. So,
Thank you, Vice Mayor Manalo.
Let me, if I can, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Let me just say how refreshing it is to hear some of your ideas, some of the Vice Mayor's ideas, and how open you are to the public and to welcoming people and trying to work together with people. I think what you said is just a refreshing, wonderful thing to hear, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you on this new year.
Thank you, Mr. Buenaventura. Okay, moving ahead. Do you have any? Okay. Number 9, staff.
Yeah.
Staff reports. Any from staff?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Consistent with the request that the Vice Mayor just made about continuing to look for resources to reinstate Engine 95, this report basically is an update to the council on the status of Engine 95 and our efforts to seek grant funds to perhaps restore Engine 95 going forward. So as the council knows, I did advise you as of Monday, January 16th at 8 a.m., Engine 95 has been taken out of service. And we have implemented the plan that was prepared by the fire chief and his command staff to make the transition. To date, we have not had any incidents that have been brought to my attention about anything related to the transition plan. In addition, we have hired a contractor to write the grant for the SAFER grant program under FEMA, which is, as you recall, the program Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. So I wanted to just update you about that. During the study session, the council requested additional information from staff to secure more data about the SAFER grant and how many cities in California have received the grant. We have provided that information, been provided that information. In the most recent round of grants that were provided in 2015, there were 17 California cities that received grants, including the San Francisco Fire Department that received about $8.5 million for hiring of firefighters. In addition, there are a couple of other Northern California cities. The city of Fairfield's Fire Department received about $1.2 million. The city of Marina, which is down in Monterey County, received about $250,000, not to hire, but to recruit, for recruitment efforts to hire firefighters. And the City of Monterey Fire Department also received about $600,000 for hiring firefighters. None of those cities received the hardship waiver that we discussed with the council. They received the funds and they were able to provide the matching grants. During the study session, the council also requested additional information about the criteria for a waiver of economic hardship in order to avoid having to pay the city's share of the grant. As you will recall, when we brought this issue to the council and gave you details about a potential grant to restore Engine 95, we did indicate to you that the requirements under FEMA's SAFER grant is that over the life of the 3-year grant, that FEMA only provides 75% of the grant for the first 2 years and only 35% of the funding requested during the 3rd year, which means that the city would have to come up with a 40% contribution towards the total cost in the first 2 years, and by the 3rd year, that would rise to almost 80%. The reason for that also of that larger number is because, as we noted to you, the FEMA grant only provides for the hiring of entry-level firefighters. And if we are to restore Engine 95 with the staffing that we have available, it would mean that we would have to make up the difference between what our employees are actually making and a entry-level firefighter. And as we indicated to the council at that time, without an economic hardship grant waiver, over the life of that 3-year period, our proportional share for the grant would be about $4.9 million. That would just be our share. We'd get the rest from over that 3-year period from FEMA. If we were to receive a hardship waiver, that number would drop to about $3.3 million that the city would be responsible for. So it would not mean that we would not pay anything. It just means we wouldn't pay as much as if we don't get the waiver. Now, with respect to the criteria, we can apply, and we will, with our grant for the hardship waiver. In fact, FEMA requires that you put in the request for an economic hardship waiver at the time that you submit the grant, which, as a reminder, is due on February 10th. So we're in the process of preparing the grant right now. The SAFER grant requires that an agency that receives the waiver must demonstrate that they have no available financial resources to cover all or part of the cost share. And that would include reserve funds, savings accounts, rainy day funds, or any other financial instruments that the city has available. So what that means is that we can apply for the economic hardship, but if we are requested to demonstrate that we don't have any reserve funds that we could use, or any of these other funds available, it would be under those set of circumstances that we had no extra dollars available that they would consider the hardship. If you are considered, if you have no reserve funds and you have no other financial instruments available to you, in addition to showing that economic hardship, you have to demonstrate that certain conditions exist in your community, and those conditions are unemployment rates that have increased the previous 3 years, unemployment rates that exceed the national unemployment rates by not less than 2%, a median household income the previous 3 years that has been 80% or less than the state median household income, and that's for the entire community.
Do we know what that number is?
It would be pretty significant, and it would not probably apply to the entire Daly City population. And a poverty rate that is 150% or greater than the national poverty rate. Again, that would be community-wide, and we would not be able to satisfy that requirement. Or if you could not demonstrate that you met at least 3 of those 4 conditions, if you could demonstrate that you had filed for bankruptcy or had been placed under third-party oversight or receivership during the previous 3 years, they would consider that an economic hardship worthy of waiving the local match. And a final area that a recipient may be able to provide optional supporting documents that demonstrate the percentage of individuals in the community who are eligible to receive assistance under the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program has increased over the prior 3 years. So in other words, the number of people who are on some kind of assistance under the SNAP program has increased substantially during that 3 years, which would demonstrate, again, that we were a very low-income community. So we will be applying for the grant and the hardship waiver. Whether or not we can satisfy the eligibility under the waiver is highly doubtful, but nevertheless, we will pursue it to the extent that we can. We will show all the budget cuts that we've made and that kind of thing. But those are pretty stringent requirements for them to waive the local contribution completely. So we will continue to move forward. We will continue to look at other means that we might be able to support this, the reinstatement of Engine 95. As I mentioned to you at the last meeting, simply because we've taken the engine out of service at the present time and reallocated staff, if we were to get this grant, or if some other windfall of revenue were to come our way that would allow us to do this, we would be able to make transition back to our previous operating plan and put Engine 95 back into service, the same way that if we receive this grant, that will be our objective. And that concludes my update to you.
Ms. Martell,
Yes.
thank you so much. That's what I'm talking about. We will try to find some way that we can accomplish what we are trying to do. Thank you. I believe in having a piece of the pie than no pie at all. Thank you so much, Mr. Martell.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Anything else from staff? Request to adjourn this meeting. Oh, before we adjourn, thank you.
Have some adjourned memories.
I'd like to adjourn in memory of the following. James Ed Sawyer, he's the husband of retired city employee Virginia Sawyer, and the Dolger Senior Center volunteer for many years. And this just came down today, a Gerardo Silva. He's a Redwood City police officer who was found, he died due to natural causes after being missing for 8 hours, and he was inside the facility. Employees and their families or immediate family member, we have a Lynette Geza Hedney, Police Officer Louis Jackson's mother-in-law. Lourdes V. Lopez, Public Works employee, which is Conrad O'Frill's mother-in-law. Yanira Romero, another Public Works employee, Sibley Callis' sister-in-law. So with that being said, I'd like to have a moment of silence before we adjourn. Okay, request to adjourn this meeting.
All right, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is now adjourned. I noticed the uniform in the back. Did I miss something on the agenda for the Scouts of America? Were you folks?
By and just, you know, the boys here just want to learn about the city.
Oh.
And, their community to the citizen and learn how things are run. And they probably have a few questions, you know, afterwards to each and every one of you.
Oh, great. And these young men part of Daly City or go to schools here in Daly City?
You know,
All over?
There's our troops in San Francisco, but my boys and a few other boys live in Daly City.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I'll be available to speak with you guys if you like, okay? But our meetings usually don't go this long, but tonight it's a little bit different. Thank you.